Hello, everyone, and welcome to, I think it's our first webinar since a while, the first one this year, about bridging the gaps with EDGY. I'm Milan Günther. I'm one of the leaders of Intersection Group. And as you can see here, we like to think big. We have the galaxy behind our logo. And we like to think that we help people create better enterprises. And there's an asterisk after the better, and that's because it's not always evident or obvious for people what we mean when we say create better enterprises, and that's why we need to clarify. So this is the little asterisk, and this is EDGY. So we are striving with EDGY to create enterprises or co-create enterprises that serve a clear purpose, that are useful to people, and add value to their lives, and also that deliver on what they promise. But just a little background why we are looking into enterprises. It's one of the, I would say, less trendy areas of design still compared to, for example, fashion design or experience or product design, or even quite specialized design disciplines. So why should we care? And our answer is that they often fail us in different respects, right? So we have here a cover of Business Week from some time ago, but they kind of nicely illustrated one enterprise where they said, this is not really well designed. And they basically put symptoms here. So you can be an employee of that enterprise, of United Airlines in this case, and be unhappy, right? Or as a customer, your customer experience as a passenger is really bad. Why? Not necessarily because the customer experience department did anything wrong, or the customer experience team, or the marketing team. No, the flights are delayed, right? So that's an operational issue that leads to customer experience problems and these scenes at the airport that we all sometimes know, or tech meltdowns, right? So often when airlines can't fly, it's because of IT or questionable behavior. And they summarized this with this question here, or this statement that they're covering in this magazine, United's quest to be less awful. It's not even be great, but just less awful. And as designers, we think that this can't be it. This cannot be our desired state, to be less awful. We want to do things. We want to create enterprises that, again, are really purposeful. So they say they want to do something and they do it. They are useful and they actually deliver. And in order to do so, we publish EDGY. It's a language for enterprise design that we will look into today. We also have a community and we run events. This year is our 10th conference. And we also publish books like this Enterprise Design Pattern books, a book here, and we run courses and we develop digital tools. So looking a little bit more into enterprises. So what do we mean when we say enterprise? It's a quite broad term. A lot of people only understand companies, but that's not the only thing we are looking at. Here's an example from another sector. It's the healthcare sector. And here is basically a overview of all the different enterprises that you find in this ecosystem. So obviously you have healthcare providers and professionals, you have companies that are working in this field that are often used synonymous with the term enterprise or business. You also of course have governments, very important enterprise authorities, you have labs, you have universities, you have investors, insurers, and also not-for-profits, associations, charities, and so on. So this is all of or all of these are instances of what we mean when we say enterprise. We say it's a group of people with a shared ambition. So each of these enterprises has some kind of ambition in this healthcare sector, and together they make part of the system that runs basically the country, the planet, the society, you name it. And so what kind of challenge do these enterprises face? A lot of enterprises are deep into innovation, right? So creating something new is our kind of shorthand for what's often called innovation, something that doesn't exist yet. So very often we see images like this, right? So there's a lot of promise for digital health services, for example, for there's this person with some kind of a touch or gestural wall with like it looks a bit like Minority Report, and they say, okay, this is the innovation that we are looking for, right? So everything is blue and glittery. But then if you look at the field itself, at the healthcare sector, it looks different, right? So, and this is why we also have to look into transformation. So if you are a patient, if you are a professional, if you are anyone in touch with these enterprises, you are in touch with, of course, you have a customer experience, you're in touch with products and services, you are subject to operations, you are subject to organizational decisions, organization design, like teams and repetition of tasks between them. And you are also, in a way, a subject to the purpose of the enterprise that might be deliver healthcare, might be insuring you, might be all of these. So we, in order to innovate, in order to design something better, something new, we also have to take into account this system, this fabric, this current environment that we want to transform. And this is where EDGY comes in. So all the things that I just said, that's part of the EDGY language. So we are looking at enterprises with three facets, three very universal facets, basically, that any enterprise, regardless of the industry, the nature, or the size, or the kind of enterprise, whether it's not for profit or company or government or whatever, you can always use these facets as lenses and describe what you see when you look at an enterprise, or you look at a part of an enterprise, like a team or a product or a service or a function. So these three facets are the identity. Who are these people? Why are they here? What do they want? The identity of the shared identity of the people sharing this ambition that makes the enterprise. That's the green one here, the little thought bubble, what people have in their head, basically. Then we have the experience that is red here, the heart. How does the enterprise actually appear in people's lives? Experience in the sense of customer experience, that those are important people for many enterprises, but maybe also employees, investors, partners, freelancers. I don't know, like already in the healthcare sector, it's difficult to ask to talk about customers. You basically have a lot of actors like patients and professionals and very different relationships. But whatever these people experience and whatever the enterprise achieves to change in their life, this is what we talk about when we look from the red facet from experience. And then we have the blue facet, which is little house. So this is the architecture of the enterprise. How does it work? How does everything fit together? What can it do, given what is in place there with all the structures and all the dynamics and all the elements between them that are in place? So we use these to separate basically some concerns, right? Some questions. Who are we? How does it work? And what comes out for people? But that said, it's important to mention that we are always looking at the same enterprise. So if we see one piece of enterprise, we can use any of these lenses, but we can always use any of these lenses. Those are not separate things. any piece of enterprise has architecture, has experience, and has identity. Whether you ask those questions is a different matter, whether you have the mandate, whether you are interested in these questions and their answers. But regardless, what you look at, you always can, and you can always clarify what's behind each of these questions and each of these facets looking at one particular enterprise. And so this is why this is depicted as a Venn diagram, right? So those facets overlap. And in the intersections between them, in the overlaps, you find some more terms. So in between the identity and the architecture, in order to bring our identity to life, we need to organize ourselves. And if we do that, if we build teams, if we have an organization, if we have a mode of working together, then we will have capabilities and processes that come out, that are in place, that are the result of our working together, our organizing, which ideally will result in some products, so something that we can offer, and that will have an impact on people's experiences, customers, but also maybe others, if we have internal products or products for different groups. And that, in turn, will influence our brand, which is the orange one here, the brand being the reflection of our identity in people's experiences. And yeah, so this is what EDGY brings in. If you are interested in exploring this, you can look on enterprise.design. So there you have an in-depth deep dive of the enterprise design facets. So identity, architecture, and experience, and these questions. And you also have a overview of the intersections. But then asking questions can get you quite far in enterprise design. Like in many projects, I actually for some time stay just with the facets. Basically, use the colors, use these icons, ask the questions to clarify things, and to bridge the perceptions and the gaps between different people that are involved in the initiative from different organizations that often kind of represent some of these facets, right? So you might have leadership that really looks into the vision and why are we here. You might have HR and organization professionals. You might have architects and engineers and analysts. You might have product owners, product managers. You might have experience designers, service designers, or marketing professional. And all of these together deliver basically the decisions that make an enterprise coherent. So already the facets alone are quite useful. But in EDGY, we go one step further and we look at what is actually the fabric of the enterprise. What is the essence? What is the material that we are designing with? And this is where enterprises are, as a matter, or as a subject to design and to architecture and all of these different form-giving disciplines, behaves a bit differently than, say, a piece of furniture or a house, because there you actually have things that you can, to a certain extent, control and put in place, and you have material that behaves the way it should, hopefully. In enterprises, the fabric, the elements that make it are more fluid, are more emergent, right? So the metaphor that we find for enterprise design that is a better fit than the architect of a building is this gardener here. Nice guy, right? And he needs to, what does he need to do to have a nice garden? Can't just design everything, right? Can't just take all those decisions. You have to basically plant the seeds, influence, and see what grows, see what emerges, and react to it. And so this is why the enterprise elements, they are kind of similar, right? They are just appearing in this environment based on people's conversations, people's ideas, people's activities. And we need, as enterprise designers, we need to facilitate this process and make them grow and make them flourish and make people together create this coherent and hopefully purposeful, useful, and reliable environment that then delivers on an enterprise's promise and makes it a well-designed whole. Without being deep experts or very deeply in touch with any specific domain or discipline that is hiding behind these elements, because we are interested in the interplay and in the effects between them. So what do we need for that? EDGY is positioned a little bit like this very classic stone, very ancient, found by some archaeologists. It's the Rosetta Stone, and it's remarkable in that it actually helped people understand ancient languages due to one very simple fact. It has the same story, the same content in 3 different languages. And thereby people were able to fill the gaps that they had in the understanding of these languages, because you could just basically look at the other language and say, okay, here they write this, so in this symbol in that language must mean that. So there is a coherence between these different texts. So you have hieroglyphs on the top, then you have Aramaic and Greek, and it's the same content. And thereby the purpose of the Rosetta Stone at the time was to have these different groups, these different communities, these different people understand each other, different classes, different populations, and have one story that they all could pursue together, and therefore expressing the things in those different languages. And what we see in enterprises is that a lot of bad decisions, a lot of incoherence, failed projects, lost investments are because people do not understand each other, and they basically talk not to each other, but they say something, but they are not understood. They spend a lot of time in meetings without really understanding each other, and then they go off and do something each in their corner, and in the end it doesn't fit together, and the whole thing doesn't move. Like in vector math, you tear it in several directions at once, and the result is 0. So how can EDGY address that? We basically try to make a language that works for those designers and marketers that kind of prefer, icons and symbols and colors and journeys and user and customer-centric thinking, design thinking, post-its, and all of this, doing workshops and design sprints and working often in innovation. But we also have to then cover the strategists and the entrepreneurs, the leaders, the people that actually create and drive the identity and the purpose of the enterprise and the stories behind it, and that go to leadership retreats and come back with a vision for in 5 or 10 years that needs to be communicated and understood and translated into each and everyone's personal purpose and work and environment. And then we also need something that is understood and makes sense for the people that architect and plan, the engineers, the analysts, the architects, everyone working on the operational implementation at scale of something as complex and big and ambitious as many enterprises actually are. And so how can we have this one language that acts as a Rosetta Stone and enables these translations? And so this is why EDGY, compared to some other languages that you see around, especially in the architecture space, is quite simple. It basically only has 4 elements, which is based on a almost tautology, a statement that is so true that it's very hard to argue against. And some of these disciplines that we have around in the community like to argue about this, about definitions and things like that. But the basic premise of EDGY is that you can describe any enterprise and any piece of enterprise by naming people that do something, some activity, using some stuff, some objects, like machines or environments or knowledge or you name it, some stuff, in order to achieve some sort of outcome. And this is the base element. So this is the basic, very descriptive, very neutral way to describe what's going on in and around an enterprise. These base elements don't really answer the questions that we were posing before, right? So you don't really see whether it's useful, whether people have great experiences, whether it delivers on promises, whether like all of these things. So in order to do so, we have to bring back the facets, and we have to bring these things together. And so thereby you get to the full 16 elements of EDGY. So we have the base elements still here in the corner. People are the most important one, even though they are like they are on the chart, but they are kind of like everywhere, right? So you have all these people walking around, doing things. And then we have outcomes, activity, and objects. And then we combine that with the facet model before. So starting now on the other side, right? So we have, for example, we have a customer that has some kind of a task, like they want to buy our product or they want to use it for something ideally. So here we have some researchers and so on, and they map their journey, and they look at the channels that these people use to get in touch with the enterprise. And ideally, we can offer some kind of product that fits into people's lives, that serves their tasks, that makes sense in their journey, helps them solve some kind of problem. And in order to create this product and to make it available, we as an enterprise have to develop our architecture, which is we have to build up capabilities that enable us to deliver this product. We have to bring in processes, and we have to use assets. And in order to do that, we need to organize ourselves. We may have to decide who does what. We have to decide on teams and roles and responsibilities that then implement the purposes behind the stories we tell each other and our customers, our investors, everyone in the enterprise as a community about how everything works and is supposed to be working, and the content that we make to clarify all of this and to communicate everything to people, which then is visible as like these stories and these purposes are visible as part of our brand, as something that we communicate and that we stand for. And you see that everything that is on the left wall, the tasks, the purposes, and the capabilities are outcome elements. So things that we want to achieve, states, desired outcomes. Like I have the task to go from A to B, so I take the train. So that's my task. So my outcome is to arrive at B. I have the purpose as an enterprise to transport people from like nice and conveniently and so on from A to B. So that's my purpose. It's also an outcome. And I have the capability to do so. So I have everything in place, all the assets, all the trains, all the planning, all the competencies and the infrastructure and so on to do so. So the outcome is that I'm capable actually to transport you from A to B. Everything that is on the right walls that people work on here is activities. So the journeys that happen over time, processes that happen over time, and stories that are going like step 1, 2, 3 over time. So all of these are activity elements. And everything that people care about here, that people attend to on the little tables, are objects. So we have our products that we are making are objects, the assets that we have to use to make the products and do whatever we do are objects. The content that we make is an object. Our brand is an object. And the channels that we use, our website, or the mobile app, the call center, and so on, are all objects. And so we have basically only these 4 elements, but with the rich questions that the facets ask, we can be more specific and we can describe experiences, identities, and architectures and their intersections so products, organizations, and brands as elements and relations. So EDGY, some people might be curious, what does it stand for? It's of course a super cool name, but also it stands for Enterprise Design Graph Interplay. So what we are working with here is the interplay of elements on a graph. And so we will look now at some graphs to some EDGY maps, as we call them, to clarify a little bit how to use this. So looking at the purpose of an enterprise, our enterprise here is a railway company. That's why the song. So this purpose is taken from an actual railway company. So they say their purpose is bringing people together, right? Often they are public or half public, so they have some kind of official purpose from the state, from the government owners, but then there are also private companies, or they are a mix. But anyway, so a purpose is a reason why an enterprise exists and what people pursue and believe in. So this enterprise is there to bring people together. How they bring people together, here are people together, right? They're not on a train, is a different question. So here we have a purpose map in EDGY. It's a hierarchy. So this enterprise wants to, bring people together, but that's part of this idea of contributing to people's lives. They want to revolutionize transportation in Europe. In order to do so, they have a strategy, and that translates to these purposes, sub-purposes: utilize nighttime capacity, run a shared infrastructure platform with other companies so that they can build a bigger network and serve more destinations, reach countryside places, reduce the carbon footprint. But then they are also a pioneer in this customer-oriented rail. Not sure if you find this very telling, but often purpose statements are not very, very telling. So that's why we have to decompose them and look into how do they want to be a pioneer exactly. Okay, they want to use data-driven, use data basically to make innovative services, build partnerships, but also offer a viable alternative to the example from the first case, United. Maybe not United. It's difficult to compete with United with a train, at least across continents. But other airlines right now are feeling the heat from train companies, especially in Europe. So that is a purpose. They want to also make a profit. It's a company. They want to be punctual, comfortable, convenient, cost efficient, and all of this is part of what they call service delivery excellence. And so with this purpose map, we want to move from a lot, like thousands and thousands of slides of PowerPoint and other content about mission, about strategy, about vision, bringing this into the language, connecting it to the rest, so that the enterprise actually tells a coherent story to all employees, to all partners, to the customer, that conveys a very clear purpose, and that then can be clarified and decomposed into a structure of purposes that fits with what people and teams do individually, and that all of this is aligned with the overall purpose of the enterprise. And this is why we model this, and this is why it is an enterprise element. Looking at experience, we have the equivalent of an enterprise purpose, but a task in EDGY asks not what the enterprise is there to do, but what someone personally wants to get done. By the way, these terms are the ones we are using. Other methodologies, other approaches use different terms. There's jobs to be done, for example. There's all sorts of terms like this. They are very similar. It's just that we looked for and chose a set of terms, and basically we are using them now. They passed what we call the teenager test. So we asked some teenagers, does this make sense to you? And interestingly, it often makes more sense to teenagers than to very senior practitioners of very well-established and defined disciplines that might define task as something else. And that's fine. It's just in EDGY, it means this. In EDGY, it's something a person personally wants to get done, a need, an intent. And enterprises try to position themselves so that people like employ them in the jobs to be done terms, or hire them to help with certain tasks. So you want to visit a loved one, like the scene here that is depicted here. And yeah, you could take the train, but you could also do all sorts of other things, right? You could take a car, you could take a plane, you could walk, it depends. You could have a Zoom call or go into some metaverse, I don't know. But the task is being together with someone that you want to be together. That's the task. It's not taking the train, it's not buying the ticket. And so that's why it's an outcome, but a personal outcome. So this is what tasks look like in EDGY, again, for a train company, but now we are looking at the same thing from a passenger perspective. So I'm dreaming about going somewhere. I want to get inspiration for trips. I want to have maybe some occasions like events that I want to attend, or city breaks, or visiting people, or business trips, or holidays. And then I plan my trips, which includes everything that the train company can help with, but also other things like find accommodation, right? Make reservations. And very often what we see is customer experience is defined sometimes wrongly as the interaction between us and the customer, or the interaction between the product and the customer. If you go tomorrow to another country by train in Europe, you will probably go on an app that has several companies represented. So you have, in my case here, I'm in Paris, so I have the French, maybe the German, the some European competition, and maybe also the Italian railway. They are all now competing in Europe, so I have all of them in one app, and I just see who has the best deal, the best times. And so I'm interacting with this app, which is not the train company. I'm also interacting with a taxi or Uber or something to get to the station. I'm interacting with some like Airbnb maybe to find accommodation. So experiences feature many enterprises, and one big task like getting from A to B might be served by a bunch of different enterprises and different products. And so this is the important message of the experience facet. We want to try to understand people and their needs and their desires and their lives, and then see how can we as an enterprise make a difference for them. Or the other way around, we look at what we are actually doing right now and see whether people are having great experiences. And so today, what we often see is personas, journeys, customer segmentations that are basically built inside out from our product to people using it. Ideally, often it's like, oh, I discover the product, I love the product, I subscribe, I use it, it's great, and I recommend it to my friends. This is very unrealistic. We think what needs to happen is that enterprises learn again to listen deeply and to do research and to understand how people tick, understand their realities, build empathy for them, look really at first-hand insights and also data evidence to understand experience so deeply that you see the opportunities and you see how you could make a difference, and also where people's tasks, people's desires meet with your enterprise's purpose. And finally, we take an architecture element, a capability. Our definition is a bit different from, and our use of this word is a bit different from some of the, let's say, approaches, methodologies, and doctrines that are around in the architecture space. But the important thing is that we see capabilities as something that you are or are not able to do. So that's an outcome of having the assets, having the processes, having the competencies, having the people, having the resources, having everything in plane, having orchestrated all the people and assets, so that the outcome of this orchestration is that you are actually able to do it. You are actually able to drive this train as a combination of these things. And so this capability is needed to serve the purpose and to serve the task, right? And to build the product and to bring the organization to life so that it actually does something. So capability in EDGY as a map looks like this. So everything that we can do, we can interact with customers, we can operate our train. How do we do that? We have passenger information as part of passenger services. We can sell tickets. We can deal with luggage, but we can also do strategic planning. We can build and maintain stations and tracks and power lines. We can deal with risks. We can be compliant. We can deal with IT so that we don't have tech meltdowns like United seems to have. We can deal with investment. We can do enterprise design. So the capability map shows what we are able to do, not how. And it also doesn't show our organization. It shows the result of our organization so that we can, like it doesn't show, for example, which countries we are in or whether we run an agile team where and somewhere else not. It's really focusing on these outcomes of what can we do, and what also this is the true for all EDGY maps. If we do a future map, what should we be able to do, given our need to innovate and transform? So we see that capability maps today often are very hard to use and difficult. They are kind of rejected by large parts of the organization because they use like difficult language. Everything is called management, for example. They use this doctrine of always an object and a verb or something. They are not understood really, and they're difficult to relate to, and they're often confused with other maps like process or organization or even product portfolio hierarchies. And so that's why we say capability maps should be using the language of the organization. If the organization uses the term sales, call it sales. And they should be co-designed, co-created by everyone. So today, often we see that this enterprise or business architecture activities of defining what we need to be capable of and dealing with the IT assets, the other things, the processes, the operations, is done in small teams, highly specialized, often very technical. And then there's difficulty to get this actually over the fence, if there is a very high fence, to everyone else involved and impacted by this, right? So tomorrow, what we want to see with EDGY is through the links, through the closing the gaps, we are able to make this activity a collaborative one done by everyone in the organization, and architectural thinking and practice is just something else you do, just very similar to dealing with experiences or dealing with identity as part of designing one coherent enterprise together. So how does it then look in practice? We need to actually not only make these separate maps, right? We need to connect the dots, and this is where relationships come in. So EDGY has 3 relationships, flows, links, and trees. Everything we saw so far were trees, so hierarchies, things decomposing. Now we are looking at a link. So again, I have this task. I want to visit a loved one. This task is served by our product, which is a train. In this case, we are going to Switzerland. And we are using here a physical space as a channel. So maybe it's our train station and a shop in the train station, or a vending machine where someone gets the ticket. But in order to deliver this product, we need a capability, which is to drive actually the train. Otherwise, we can't deliver the product, and we can't serve the task. And for that, we need train drivers. And I have been actually in a situation where some train driver was calling in sick, and the train stopped at a station where I didn't want to be. So this is a very real case. But we need more things. We also need the train. We need a IT application called train control. We need a wagon where I can sit in. And all of this is there to pursue our enterprise purpose to bring people together. So here you see one, what we call an EDGY statement. So you have the different elements and how they fit together with instances of enterprise elements describing the fabric and bridging the gap between the different perspectives of the different disciplines and silos present in the enterprise. We can also look at mixed maps, like, for example, some of you might know a service blueprint. So in EDGY, we can just map the facets and the elements onto a service blueprint template. If you want to know more, this is the Andy Polaine and friends book, Service Design in Rosenfeld Media. That is that blueprint, because there are different ones, but you can basically use any. You put the customer journey on top, you put the channels, and you put the tasks that people go through as they go through the journey through the different channels. You can even mark which ones are really important. The top tasks, like booking a ticket and getting on the train on time, for example, really important. And then you can position your products, which products serve which task across someone's journey. And then you can put capabilities that you need in order to serve them. So we need marketing and communication so that we get people trip ideas when they research. Who's doing this? Marketing. So you put the organization here. And so you have the EDGY element: organization, capability, product, task, channel, and journey to make these links over time. You can also do it round and try to represent the whole enterprise. So this is a Milky Way enterprise map. It's very similar to a service blueprint. It's just going clockwise. So we need to build our tracks. These are capabilities we need for that. We need to run and plan our trains and run them, and bill and have people bill and book, give them passenger information. So we have all these capabilities. We run the train, we run the restaurant, we trade energy, we analyze the customer insights, and so on. We do new investments, we manage risk, our operations, and so on, our HR, our strategy, our facilities, and then the cycle begins again. And we have other people that are involved in this, most importantly, our passengers. Our passenger has a full journey here, interacting with our enterprise, coming in, doing interaction, doing the travel, and then going out again. But we have also other stakeholders or people in EDGY that are involved, like maybe contractors working at our construction sites, candidates that are looking for a job, investors that want to invest, and also government people, very important in this industry, that might want to see a train connection in their city or their region. And we have our purposes that we can also assign to this cycle. So as we build, we want to build this shared infrastructure. We want to bring people together, so develop products and services that do so, achieve seamless mobility. As we run the train, we want to be punctual, safe, convenient, and so on. And so if you're interested in this one, there's a webinar coming up by Annika Kleiber about more about the Milky Way. We'll announce it in a bit. Just wrapping up with a few announcements, and then we have some time for questions. So if you are interested in learning EDGY, our next cohort, certified level 1, so it's the enterprise facets and elements. Everything that is on enterprise.design is covered. The next one is starting in early October. We will do it in two time slots for Europe, morning and evening, so that the whole planet can join. And if you're interested, then you can sign up on this URL on intersection.group/events. Just before that, and that's one of the reasons why we do it only in October, we will run our 10th anniversary intersection conference in Rome. We found a very, very nice venue, a university, basically meters from the Vatican. It will hopefully still be quite nice and sunny, so we will be outside during the breaks and after and before the conference. And there will be 2 tracks. There will be an EDGY training before for novices and for experts or for advanced users. And we are still looking for cases till in 3 days is our deadline for if you have something to share. It doesn't have to be about EDGY, can be enterprise design. But if you are using EDGY for anything, we invite you very cordially to join us in Rome and join the conversation there. We also have publications like the Enterprise Design Pattern Book. This is more about how you do enterprise design, recipes basically for dealing with common challenges that you have as a designer, an analyst, or a architect when you want to increase your impact on the enterprise, behaviors, practices, creations like we have been looking at. And all of this will be covered in upcoming webinars. So we have Bart looking into patterns, behavioral patterns, and impact patterns the next 2 weeks. Then we have a deep dive on capability maps with Jim, Rich, and Wolfgang. And we have the Milky Way map webinar also coming up by Annika, if you're interested in that map. And I invite you to go also on enterprise.design, have a look around, go to the tools, download them. We have also more and more architecture tools supporting EDGY. There are open source ones, commercial ones. There are stencils for PowerPoint, for Miro, for all sorts of tools. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. And let's have a look at questions. I already have seen one. Wolfgang is right. The slides and the video will be sent out. So don't worry, you will get them. So Ivan, you were asking, do you need elements from all 3 facets to have a complete EDGY sentence? I would say no. You can even have initially, I think in many projects we have a quite short EDGY sentence. So maybe initially we look for, like, let's say you get a mandate for architecture. And so they ask you to consolidate the IT landscape and you say, well, okay, so we have IT assets, but what we really need to look at is how are they being used in processes and what can we do with them? So what capabilities are they actually enabling? And already that might take you a while to make people understand and to basically get the enterprise moving on this without already overwhelming them with, okay, but how is this connected to the customer and the customer experience, or to our product owners in the product delivery, or to our organizational planning and reorgs that are coming up and these things, right? But eventually these things will come up. And then you can gradually extend the sentence and say, you know what, EDGY actually has something for that. So we can just reveal gradually the connecting elements and say, okay, so the organization design is incompatible with the IT consolidation. Okay, so let's map both and see if we can map, we can see the gaps and whether we can get it coherent again, and invite our HR colleagues to actually look into that together. I would say it is, of course, more powerful if you have elements across all facets, because then you are automatically also asking all the questions. But it's definitely not needed to be an EDGY sentence, and it's really up to you as a practitioner in your context, given your challenge, given your mandate, given your environment, and given your need to show maybe early successes, what's the best way to what to expose when, basically. Okay. And you have another question, longer one. Okay, right. So I've seen 2 styles, and the one that I just mentioned, I think, is the you have a long-term engagement in a little bit conservative organization, and you need to go slow but also challenge them. And in that case, you, like, usually, or what we see is that people don't necessarily try to sell EDGY, but to sneak it in. There are so many things that are being sold, So if you try to basically aggressively sell another thing next to safe, next to I don't know whatever else is trending in your organization, you find yourself competing for attention and competing for investment, and that might backfire. So sometimes we see people rather kind of use it in their team with some colleagues, maybe then across the organization with someone else. Someone's curious, you send them to the training. There's like a growing movement of people using it, and it's a like kind of natural growth, and there's no real sales involved. The other one that we also see, and that is also successful, is the radical opposite. You are brought in because you are seen as an innovative, experienced practitioner that does things differently, and you are supposed to bring your toolbox and your approach, and you make it basically part of your the personal brand or the team brand as practitioner. Say, we know how it goes, and this is EDGY. It's by an authority, not for profit. It's an open source method. Lots of people use it. Lots of people contribute to it, and it's a really good way to use it to deal with our challenge, because you customer experience say this, you product say that, you architect say this, and your organization say that, and we can use it very easily. We can show off quite easily how to use it to bridge these gaps and translate between these different perspectives. It correlates a bit with internal and external, but it's also not completely clear. So it depends on your style, I would say, whether you ride in on the edgy horse or you pull it out under the table when the enterprise feels ready. Okay. Frederick. Right. So I agree. So Frederick just said we can use EDGY or Archimate or any, like you didn't say anything else, but I would add, or anything else. But the most important thing is to build the conditions during which you can ask the right questions. And this is correct. So EDGY starts with questions. It doesn't start with elements, right? So where are we here? These questions. You ask these questions. If people have answers, great. If they ask, why are you asking these questions? You can go into some scenarios and say, so what if it isn't clear why we are here, right? You think we are here for that, you think we are here for this, and it doesn't work, there's a conflict. Or if people don't know what really is the outcome of their work for people, right? So these are very fundamental questions. I find it still quite strange, honestly, that in many enterprises, in many situations, these questions are either like people don't ask them, people find it strange that we ask them, or people don't want to answer them. But it happens. But the important thing is that we facilitate a process where these questions can be asked and are asked, and sometimes it doesn't need to be us as practitioners who ask them. Then, as you mentioned, Archimate. Archimate has 30 plus elements. EDGY has 16. And again, you don't need to expose all of them immediately. So we think EDGY has a slightly different angle compared to Archimate, what we focus on and what we map and model. That said, you can, via a extension, you can actually use any Archimate compatible tool to use EDGY, because there is a specialization that you can implement in any tool using the standard, and just implement EDGY on top of Archimate. So you have Archimate and you have any kind of Archimate capable repository tool behind, but the look and feel and the elements that you actually then model and map are EDGY. And you can, of course, even say, okay, for this part of the job, we use EDGY because it's high level strategic. We have to find out what we want, why we are here, and how everything works. But then in order to really look into how it works, what kind of operational and technical changes we are making, and how that then links into the high-level stuff, that we use Archimate. Okay, Rune is asking, would you use EDGY for strategic planning? There's actually a case study from Maria at our last intersection in Vienna last year, where she looks exactly into this. So if you go on YouTube, you go on in our YouTube channel intersection group. I put the link into the chat. There you find the archive of all the talks from the last years. And I would say yes, you use it for strategic planning, because basically a strategy is how you configure these different elements so that you achieve whatever you want to achieve, right? We see a lot of people saying strategy is something like, next year we double our revenue. That's not the strategy. That's the goal. How do you do that? Okay, maybe you want to improve journeys. Maybe you want to make winning products. Maybe you want to cut costs. Maybe you want to hire more competent people. Maybe you want to expand in more markets. All of these things can be expressed in EDGY. And so I would not see this as an afterthought. I think I don't see the sense in doing strategic planning and then modeling it in EDGY, because the reason why you would use EDGY is to have these conversations. The model is nothing more than a means to have these conversations. If you can have the conversation without any model, then don't use it. But the model is designed to help. And so, yeah, if there's I would never use it for just a presentation. All right, we're at the top of the hour. Thank you so much for joining. We will send out the slides. If you are interested in contributing to an intersection group, if you are interested in any of our initiatives, if you want to use EDGY, if you're interested in the training, or if you have something to contribute, please get in touch, and we will have a conversation. And have an excellent morning, evening, wherever you are.